Interior, Detective Schmidt's car, morning. They sit in his car as he drives silently. Michelle appears hurt, agitated. Finally, when he pulls up to a red light, Schmidt turns to her and breaks the silence.
Didn't care for the sermon?
I knew we were meeting today. Had I stayed any longer, I would have done a shot of wine. And I promised to be sober.
A slow smile comes across her face as she turns to face the detective, who, too, is smiling. The light turns green, and Schmidt begins driving.
I don't know why you needed to see me again today. I told you everything I saw.
I'm hoping maybe you'll remember more details. Little things that might mean something.
So you still believe me?
I don't see any reason why you'd be making any of this up. Plus, you gave us a detail that hadn't been reported to anyone, not even the families of the deceased. So yes, I believe you.
Michelle appears more relaxed as Schmidt continues to drive. Interior, Detective Schmidt's office, later. Close-up of the detective's crime scene wall, covered with grisly photos of all 3 victims and their crime scenes. Michelle stands looking at them, then has to turn away. Schmidt walks in with 2 cups of water. He sees that Michelle has been staring at the photos.
I'm sorry if this is too much for you.
I think you forget what I've seen already.
He gives her a knowing nod, hands her a cup.
Please, have a seat.
Michelle sits in a chair across his desk, places the water on it. The detective sits as well. Michelle is looking at the items on his desktop.
Are you married, Bob?
Was. I'm divorced now.
Any children?
We had one, a daughter named Sarah.
Had?
She died 3 years ago. She was killed by a drunk driver. She was 15. She'd be your age now.
Sorry.
It's okay. You didn't know.
There's a small pause as Schmidt looks at Michelle.
I see a lot of her in you.
Really? Like what?
Smart, quiet, but spoke her own mind. Pretty.
Thank you for the compliments. But I hope she wasn't any way like me.
She laughs to herself.
Why did you get divorced?
The strain of losing a child can be unbearable. Our relationship, I guess, wasn't strong enough to survive the loss.
Michelle comes across a picture of a young girl on his desk, picks it up.
Is this Sarah?
Yes,
Did you love her?
more than anything.
Michelle studies the picture a little bit longer, then places it back on his desk.
Your daughter paid for someone else's mistake. Person drinks too much. Maybe because he got a promotion at work, or because he didn't want to go home to face his family, or maybe because he was out of work and angry. Whatever the reason, this person gets in his car drunk and takes the life of an innocent girl whose only mistake was being at the wrong place at the wrong time. How can you believe in a God that allows such a thing?
We're all sinners, Michelle. We all make mistakes. The man who took her life, he didn't plan to take someone's life when he woke up that morning.
So you've forgiven him just like my father says we should?
I was very angry at him at the time, and yes, I was angry at God too. But he made a mistake. No amount of hate towards him was going to bring back Sarah, to undo his mistakes. So yes, I've forgiven him.
I wouldn't have forgiven him. I wouldn't forgive God either.
Like your father said today, we're all sinners, Michelle. All of us.
At age 15, what sins do you think your daughter committed to justify her dying at the hands of a drunk driver?
Schmidt sits back, looking frustrated.
Things happen, Michelle. We can't control them. If you think otherwise, it will drive you insane.
If there's a God, he should be able to control such things. He's supposed to be perfect, all-knowing, omnipresent. He's responsible for your daughter's death.
Why do you believe that?
God created us in his image, right?
Yes.
Adam and Eve were created perfect in his image. But they weren't perfect. He gave them free will. And with that will, Eve did the one thing they were told not to do. She ate the apple, the first sin. I think God has been pissed at us ever since. But instead of taking it out on innocent people like your daughter, or the young girls who've been tortured and murdered, He should be taking it out on himself because he's not perfect. We are a reflection of him. And it is he who sins every single day with every murder, earthquake, disease, terrorist attack. It wasn't Adam and Eve who failed God. It was God who failed us.
Schmidt sits back in his chair, not knowing what to say.
If there is a God, he's angry and vengeful and uncaring. We're in this alone. Believing in him is futile, an empty promise.
I was angry like you, Michelle. I don't know why God works the way he does. Trying to make sense of what happens in this world will make you crazy. After Sarah's death, I searched for answers. In the end, I had to trust that he took her from us for a reason.
Michelle stands up, walks back to the crime scene photo wall.
There is no reason for your daughter's death. There's no reason that little babies are born crack addicts. There's no reason why 3-year-old girls are raped. There's no reason for this.
She points to the wall.
There's no reason for fathers.
She turns to the wall. Her words dried up. Schmidt can see she wants to say more, but he doesn't pursue. Michelle catches herself, turns back to him.
I don't want to be a part of this. He wants me to do his job for him, to stop this killer. I can't. I can't do this.
She walks back to her chair, slumps into it. She raises her eyes to his.
The rest of my life, I will be a sideshow freak. Every parent whose child has been murdered and the killer uncaught will come to me begging me to hold that child's hand.
Her eyes appear to be pleading.
I can't do this, Bob. You won't fuck up my life anymore.
She lowers her gaze to the floor, looking tired, defeated.
What if you took God out of the equation? If there really isn't a God, imagine the good this gift could do.
She doesn't look up.
Fate.
What about fate?
What if it was fate that's brought me here?
And who created your fate?
No idea how fate works.
God, maybe?
Please.
Maybe God knew what you were planning to do to yourself that night.
Michelle looks hurt by this.
His love for you saved your life that night.
So you're telling me it was Carla's fate to be tortured and murdered, all to save my life?
Her fate, your fate, my fate can't be changed. Her fate was to die that night. It was your fate to not end yours so you could discover this special gift he's given you.
Fuck him! I will not do his job for him.
She begins crying quietly, trying to hold back the tears.
Do you hear me, Bob? Fuck him and his fucking gift.
He hands her a tissue, which she uses to dry her tears.
I'm done with this.
Her crying continues.
He's done enough to fuck up my life, my head.
Schmidt looks on, wanting to ask what she means, but he doesn't.
There's one thing the killer and I have in common.
What's that?
We both lost our faith in religion.
What made you lose yours, Michelle?
Her swollen eyes look into his, expressing thoughts that Michelle's lips will not say. She breaks her look, reaches for a water cup, takes a long drink.
I'm tired. You brought me here for a reason. If you want to hear what I saw when I held Carla's hand, I'm ready. Turn that tape recorder on. If not, I'm out of here.
Do you remember everything you saw?
Yes. As long as I'm alive, I will never forget what I saw.
Schmidt reaches to the recorder, hits record.
Then I held her hand.